I wanted to talk a little bit about creativity. Now, normally when people think about creativity, they think about coming up with some brand new idea out of thin air, something that's never been created before. But in our business, I found that creativity doesn't always have to come from invention, although invention is certainly valuable. Sometimes it can come from a closer reading of the texts that govern our financing programs. To understand what the words actually say, right? What do the words say, and what is interpretation of the words? Now, sometimes there are beliefs that just become accepted, and you hear, and it's just that's how it's always been done. At that point, we have to be willing to question, what kind of everyone knows, and go back to the source. For example, many years ago, when I was originating loans, you had always heard the same thing for affordable housing properties, that you had to underwrite using the affordable rents, which were lower than market rate for both debt service coverage and loan to value. That was the rule, and everyone said it. But one day I decided to actually look in the map guide and read what the guidelines said. And it turned out that wasn't quite true. Yes, from a debt service coverage perspective, you had to use the affordable rents. But for loan to value, it said you were able to evaluate the property as if it were an unrestricted market rate asset, right? Now, this was huge, right? This small detail opened the door for probably billions of dollars in additional financing over the next few years. But it came from just reading the words that it actually said instead of relying on what was generally assumed. So my message is that when you hit a challenge and people tell you, well, that's just how it's always done, go to the text. And this is whether or not you are, obviously, if you're an underwriter, if you are an asset manager, if you're a project manager, if you're an originator, whatever your role is, go to the text, see it with your own eyes. Sometimes the most creative thing we can do isn't to just dream up some new invention, but actually to read more carefully than anyone else. Right? So that's an idea. Feel free to try it out. Trust the experts and verify. See the text with your own eyes. That's all for now. I'll speak with you soon.